Reactor online. Sensors online. Weapons online. All systems nominal.
Hello everyone, Carrie here, and today we are taking a look at one of the new releases from Ironwind Metals that I was able to pick up at the Richmond Open in May. The mech we'll be looking at today is the Inferno. Now, before we hop into the review of the miniature in both the Prime and Alpha configurations, I first want to talk about the mech itself, and about what I consider to be its strengths and its weaknesses. The Inferno was first conceived as a Starcorps testbed for creating a mech with enhanced survivability. The Federated Suns, who were on the back foot with the dragon, diving deep into their territory, were desperate for anything which could help stem the tide of worlds being lost to them, and Starcorps offered up the Inferno, which the AFFS procurement department immediately ordered. The Inferno is built on the world of Crofton, which is located spinward of the Dragon's Tongue, and allowing for the mech to be quickly distributed and used to resupply and rearm Federated Suns units engaged in combat with the Draconis Combine after the fall of New Avalon. Overall, the design is 75 tons and built on a Starframe heavy endosteel chassis and powered up to a top speed of 64 kilometers per hour by a General Motors 300 engine. This is combined with a compact gyro, allowing more space in the center torso, and the mech is protected by 13.5 tons of armor, and cooled with 12 engine-mounted double heat sinks. The mech commits a little over a third of its weight, 29 tons to be exact, for weapons and equipment. This payload capacity makes the mech feel somewhat anemic when compared to its contemporaries, but the Federated Suns was willing to take whatever they could get in terms of battle mechs to shore up its lines. And with the Inferno being an OmniMech, the mech is easier to support logistically than its standard counterparts, as damaged weapon systems can be more easily replaced in the field. While the Inferno does come in 5 configurations, 4 of them are equipped with standard inner sphere weapons and equipment, taking advantage of the saved space in the center torso to make the mech harder to reduce to combat ineffective. We'll be looking at the 2 represented by the miniatures released by Ironwind Metals. The primary configuration of the Inferno adds 5 double heat sinks and is armed with a center torso mounted ERPPC and 2 medium re-engineered lasers, 1 in each side torso. Each side torso also mounts a shoulder-mounted multi-missile launcher 5, don't know why I had so much trouble saying that, with 2 tons of ammunition mounted in the mech's left torso, which is protected by Case 2 and has a battle value of 1,577. In Alpha Strike, the battle mech is, it's a battle mech, size 3 with a TMM of 1 and movement of 8. The INF-NO is a brawler and has a PV of 41. The mech does 4 damage at short and medium ranges, with 3 at long, a respectable amount of damage for a heavy mech, usually seen in lower end heavies, and not on machines at the top of its weight class in the clan era where clan equipment is so prevalent. The mech doesn't have an overheat value and has armor of 7 and structure of 6. For specials, the Inferno Prime has Case 2, Indirect Fire 1, Omni, and Re-Engineered Laser, giving it a decent toolbox for survivability as well as damage capability against units with reflective armor. The Alpha configuration of the mech turns it into a long-range sniper. The center torso retains the ERPPC and a Gauss rifle mounted in the left torso and is fed by 2 tons of ammunition. The mech also mounts a medium X pulse laser in each side torso and protects the internal structure from damage from a Gauss rifle failure with Case 2. This configuration has a battle value of 1846. This configuration of the INF-NOA has much of the same stats as the Prime. In fact, except for a couple of specials, it is identical to the Prime, with identical stats in armor, movement, structure, and damage, with the only difference between them being that the A configuration lacks the indirect fire and re-engineered laser special abilities. The loss of these special abilities reduces the mech's cost by 1 to 40. We will get into the Federated Suns' new hotness as far as the miniature after this quick break though. So, I do want to let you know about our sponsor, Fortress Miniatures and Games. Fortress carries just about anything you could want for BattleTech, from minis from Ironwind Metals and Catalyst Game Labs. Well, I guess they're all the same now, just different materials, as well as source books, maps, mats, terrain, and more. So check out fortressminiaturesandgames.com for all your BattleTech needs. Now, let's take a look at the Mini. I will, for the most part, be talking about both configurations at the same time, except for the weapons, where there's a bit of a snafu, but we'll talk about it when we get there. First of all, the Inferno miniature comes with a total of 12 pieces, and it allows you to build either the Prime or the Alpha configuration of the mech. The legs come as upper, lower, and hips, and are generally pretty easy to assemble. The torso is one piece, with the weapons mounting on the shoulders, and each arm is pre-posed and one piece. As far as overall detail, Ironwind has done a wonderful job in this department, with well-defined panel lines and recessed details, with nothing that looks muddy or miscast. Mold lines are well handled, with them being hidden very well, with the only ones visible to me are on the forearms of the mech, and likely using a similar technique to the plastic miniatures, with the lines being hidden in hard corners and edges, which I think metal is actually more forgivable with that. The main torso does have a spot midway up the middle of the back where you can see where a clip point or vent was located for the metal during the casting process, but this looks pretty easy to clean up. Additionally, anywhere where the sprue was connected to parts was in easy cleanup spots, and if cut cleanly, won't leave any unsightly scars on the miniature after you're done cleaning them up. The shoulder weapon attachments are done through a system using a notch and shelf type assembly. I'm sure there's a proper term for it, but that's the only thing I can think of at the moment. They sit in quite securely and feel like they belong when they do seat into position. They're also cast very well. They've been done to a high level of quality, with the multi-missile launcher pods for the Prime not showing any real problems or issues or mold slip or anything like that. These are done quite well. And the Alpha configuration having a gate on the rear of the non-weapons shoulder pod that does need to be cleaned up. And the Gauss rifle does have a small mold line on the rear of it and a tiny piece of flash that literally comes right off. Now, let's talk about the bad part here, and that would be the Alpha configuration. As mentioned when we looked at the specs for these two configurations, and also in the 3D render on Ironwind Metals' website, the Gauss rifle should be mounted on the mech's left torso, and the non-weapons pod on the right. As you can see though, the Mini itself mounts the Gauss rifle on the right shoulder and the pod on its left. Because of the way the shelf and notch system is done on these, it is very hard, if not impossible, to mount them on the sides that they are intended for, and instead fit on the opposite shoulders of where they should. I don't know if the 3D model ended up getting reversed when it was printed to make the master mold, but I can't think of anything else that might have happened here. I did send a message to Ironwind Metals inquiring as to if this is intended to be corrected in the future production runs, and if they will be offering corrected replacement parts to anyone who has already purchased the miniature. As of recording this episode, about a week later, we still haven't received a response. I find this pretty disappointing, as I have been constantly talking about how I feel Ironwind should be the ones making the premium sculpts for Catalyst. Even more so now than ever, as it would literally be moving production of these minis in-house, giving Catalyst greater control over the sculpts, variants, and quality of the minis. And for Ironwind to not give an answer on this when asked, well, that's just bad form. Finally, what do I think of the mech? Well, it's pretty cool looking, and I can't lie here, I feel like the design borrows heavily from Gypsy Danger from the Pacific Rim films. I think the overall casting quality is great, and they have done a great job on getting the miniature in scale and highly detailed, as we have come to expect from the newer generation of miniatures from Catalyst and Ironwind. The Alpha configuration screw up is disappointing, and I do hope that eventually they get it cleared up. So if you want the Prime, it is as good as you're going to get. The Alpha, well, if you don't mind a mirrored configuration or doing a lot of cutting to make it work, go for it. If you're looking for it to be correct to the record sheet, you're going to have a challenge on your hands, and like I said, it's going to require some creative cutting or a Dremel tool. So that is everything I have about this new Mini, and if you want to get one for yourself, you can currently do so at Fortress Miniatures and Games website. There will be a link in the description. They also are very good with their international customers, so if you find yourself in Europe listening to this, or the UK or anywhere else, check Fortress out. Also, if you've made it this far, thanks. Give us a like and subscribe if you enjoy these videos, and consider supporting the channel. You can support us on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. You will find links to our Patreon and our sponsor in the description. Until next time, stay safe out there, Mech Warriors. This is Carrie, signing off.
I want to thank all of our patrons who help make this possible. First, at Captain, we have Sarah. And then our lieutenants, Boy in a Box, Gus, Haley, Nathan, and Will. And then our sergeants, BZ Archer, Faz, Steven, and finally our cadets, NB Kaiju, Housemaster Poding, Jamie, and Scott. Thank you all so much for supporting the podcast and the channel. You all make this so possible. Also, I do want to mention once again our sponsor and mercenary liaison, FortressMinaturesandGames.com.